Hi, today we're gonna talk about the biggest scam of this year, the collapse of a cryptocurrency company FTX. It's a fascinating story about its rise and fall that's gonna grab your attention even if you don't have any interest in cryptocurrencies.
Imagine some major bank going completely bankrupt tomorrow because it turns out its CEO has been living off his clients' deposits and used their money to buy houses in the Bahamas for himself and his employees.
That's roughly what happened to FTX.
One of the biggest exchanges in the world, the one that received praise from the United States Secretary of the Treasury and the one no one ever doubted, collapsed like a soap bubble. And its founder, billionaire, philanthropist, okay, not a playboy, but he does have a trustworthy face. His name's Sam Bankman Fried. He signs everywhere as SBF. Turned out to not actually be the person he claimed he was, and people even called him the devil in a nerd's clothes.
And now he's probably gonna get a serious jail time. It's not just a story about someone rapidly making it to the top and then hitting rock bottom, or about the lengths some people have to go to foster their lies. It's a story about crypto world instantly losing its credibility, and now it's gonna be kinda hard to gain that trust back.
It did not just lose credibility, it caused a domino effect, and now some other crypto projects are also under scrutiny, and people lost billions they will never get back. It's a story about a fraud of a huge scale, but we are gonna unfold this story bit by bit. This curly-haired guy's name is Sam Bankman Fried, and as I already mentioned, he's in very big trouble. If Ponzi was hated by half of the United States, then this one is hated by half of the world. And now under FTX's latest Instagram post, people are demanding their money back.
And in this case, it will end up being their last post ever.
SBF used to say he loved risk, and he was called the next Warren Buffett in one of the headlines. And also they added his investment strategy lacked any logic and was gonna either build him an empire or end up being a complete disaster. And you already know which one of the prediction came to life. And in his interview to Forbes, our curly-haired pal said, lots of the greatest heroes of this decade will never get any acknowledgement, and some universally celebrated people are frauds, and also that some exchanges are secretly insolvent.
And now that's some bitter irony. His own company ended up being insolvent. Sam loved science when he was still in school, attended courses for gifted high scholars, and it always seemed like he was a child prodigy.
Everyone knew that he was that type of person who could be the next Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs.
He was weird, socially awkward, and always deep in his thoughts. But we all know that future geniuses are always look like that.
Parents of this young talent, Joseph Bankman and his wife Barbara Fried, are scholars and professors at Stanford Law School.
It is ironic that his whole family has consisted of well-respected lawyers in America.
His father, a professor of law and business at Stanford Law School, deals with tax legislation and achieved a lot in this field. And his mother specializes in economic cases associated with risk and harm. But one could say their son ended up being a little neglected in this regard.
Growing up, your parents are distinguished professors at Stanford Law School. Were you interested in the law at any point or not?
Not at all growing up.
After school graduation, Bankman attended the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and got a degree in physics.
It is one of the most prestigious universities in America. And the studying for Sam was not a priority anymore. The focus was on computer games and student fraternity gatherings.
And that's where he got interested in the idea of effective altruism that he first heard about from his mother. What is this?
To put it simply, it's mathematically calculated charity, meant to be as profitable as possible.
For example, if an ordinary altruist will give their money to some 2-year-old Oliver who has cancer, an effective altruist will give that money to some startup or scholars who research oncological issues, so that they would have an opportunity to not just treat Oliver, but all others too.
Effective altruists donate and invest their money into science, politics and other fields that affect the lives of lots of people, not just a few.
Bankman himself drove Toyota Corolla, slept on beanbag chairs and was sort of like a downshifter. And here he is asked why he doesn't buy a Lamborghini Man for himself, and SBF humbly gives his reply.
Why don't you buy a Lamborghini, man?
I didn't have any particular need for one.
And the main thing, he was ready to distribute all his billions, every dollar in Bitcoin. Bankman Fried was pretty adamant about it.
There is a very cringy commercial about him. It's a stage interview with a high interviewer and SBF was dressed like a homeless NPC from the game GTA San Andreas. And he bites into a cucumber after saying he's vegan and talks about charity. Just look at the way he holds out a bill. Doesn't look staged at all, right? And who's getting the money? One of the cameramen. And right back to the camera, huh?
Seriously, even I look more genuine when I give change to struggling old ladies on the street. But no, he really did donate money, especially to the Democratic Party to lobby his interests.
His colleagues called him capitalist monk. Capitalist because he worked a lot, and monk because he avoided relationships and was ascetic.
And as if following in Steve Jobs' footsteps, he rarely showered. And he rarely thought about his clients' deposits that he used for his own personal gain.
So yeah, Sam has crazy hair, Sam sleeps 5 hours a day, Sam created a huge scam, wow! Aside from asceticism, Sam was also a part of Epsilon Theta.
It is this typical club for nerds, and even alcohol is forbidden there. But he was about to make a new friend there and came up with some projects.
Bankman first started working at Jane Street Group. It's a New York trading firm.
He went there after university and was working there for 3 years and giving away, according to his words, half of his salary to charity.
He learned all the ins and outs of arbitrage trading. It's when a trader buys and resells assets, earning money from the price difference.
He didn't know at the time how much that knowledge would help him.
And then he heard about cryptocurrency.
And as experienced trader who had absolutely nothing to do with crypto, Bankman saw what any other wolf of Wall Street would see in his place.
The fact that the same coins are sold under higher prices on some exchange markets.
And buying something for a lower price and reselling it for a higher price is what he had been doing all those years.
But the financial exchange market he was used to had him basically coming up with mathematical models to get any profit.
And this one was way easier, and the profit was not just 10 times higher, it was 100 times higher.
For example, because of different exchange rates, you could earn a lot by buying bitcoins at American markets and selling them at Japanese markets.
So in the end, theoretically, you could earn $1 billion in just a little over 4 months, when initially you had only 10,000. And trading obstacles were mostly practical.
Bankman started a company with an innocent and insuspicious name, Alameda Research, that will come up multiple times in this video.
Following an old university tradition of co-working and co-living, he rented the house with his friends and fully dedicated himself of earning money.
But even if you sell bitcoins to the Japanese at some Japanese market, there is a hitch. Only the Japanese could withdraw that money. That's why Bankman started an affiliated company in Japan.
But his business looked suspicious, and bank employees raised questions concerning his foreign money transfers. And Bankman even thought about flying to Japan directly to take a cash himself.
When Alameda was at its peak, 15 million were sent daily back and forth, and they received a net profit of 1.5 million. In just a few weeks, the company earned around 20 million.
Bankman had not forgotten about charity this whole time, because one of effective altruism's principles states that you have to find a very high-paying job, or else how would you be able to help people?
By 2019, Alameda had become a highly profitable business, but Bankman came up with something more interesting.
He had long forgotten about stock trading, because Bankman discovered for himself crypto and felt invincible. And he instantly got disappointed in exchanges markets, because they just made the process of buying and selling bitcoins easier for only individual users.
But they were not any good for working with professional traders who exchanged huge amount of money at high speed.
And that's why he decided to use their Alameda profits to invest into starting their own cryptocurrency exchange market.
His father also helped him with investments and would later get property in the Bahamas as a thank you gift from his son.
But we will get to that a bit later.
That is how FTX was created. It had very flexible conditions other markets didn't have, lowered interest rates, and other things like letting traders deposit cash as a pledge to buy crypto.
It also had some other bonuses. One of them is tokenized versions of traditional assets.
For example, a crypto token that represented an Apple asset.
And overall, they kept developing new things and launched their own NFT platform, and even dominated over Binance according to some data.
It's their main competitor with Changpeng Zhao at the head of it. In the crypto community, he's known as CZ, and you better remember him, because we are gonna get back to him multiple times today.
Initially, he even invested into FTX $70 million, but then Bankman bought out a share of Binance for $2.3 billion. Do you see how fast its value went up?
He spent $210 million to print a FTX logo on the uniform of a popular cybersport league. Then he signed a $135 million contract with the basketball team Miami Heat. And for that, the main basketball arena had to be renamed to FTX Arena for the next 19 years. FTX was advertised by bloggers and basketball stars like Shaquille O'Neal. They also made a fun commercial where the inventors of a light bulb, fork, toilet and wheel were mocked for the sake of the plot. They were told, who the f need this shit, why did you even invented this? And in the end of it, FTX is presented as one of the major inventions too.
Bankman Fried spent tens of millions of dollars to support United States Democratic Party, and he also made a donation to support Biden's presidential campaign. Keep this fact in your head, we'll get to it later.
Sam also actively pushed the agenda of crypto being controlled by the government and having a clear status defined in various normative documents.
Crypto being controlled by the government. That's the whole point of crypto, Sam, that the government should not be involved in anything crypto related. And his main competitor CZ, the head of Binance, understands this and supports this classic libertarian point of view.
And by the way, as it turned out later, Sam, who was so adamantly advocated for transparency and full governmental control over crypto, urged his employees to talk using auto-delete messages, even when it came to internal communications.
Even large companies dealing with intellectual property sign non-disclosure agreements regarding internal communication, but never use auto-delete messages.
And why would a cryptocurrency exchange need it? What was so secretive about it?
The answer is simple. SBF didn't want to leave any traces.
But there is still time before the collapse, so for now Bankman Fried is still a cryptocurrency star.
He was invited to participate in the Economic Club of New York.
And it's one of the most elite and respectable organizations in the United States. They invited presidents, prime minister of different countries, billionaires and other cool people as their speakers. And what do you think? Bankman Fried was playing a computer game while giving his talk. Yikes.
Maybe he didn't spend money left and right, but he definitely lived chilled.
watching NBA Super Bowl from a VIP seat, having lunch with the basketball legend Shaquille O'Neal, being invited by Sia to have dinner at her Beverly Hills mansion, and talking about cryptocurrencies with Katy Perry. And she even made an Instagram post after that talk, captioning it with "I'm quitting music and becoming an intern for FTX official."
SBF became a source of envy for lots of people, because some people had been dealing with crypto for 10 years. Meanwhile, SBF, just a couple of years ago, before creating FTX, had not bought a single Bitcoin, was not a crypto evangelist, and was just a simple businessman who wanted to earn lots of money as quickly as possible. And he succeeded.
That's what makes him different from other famous people. Steve Jobs was obsessed with the idea of creating something new that could become an integral part of people's life and be functional and straight to the point. And Elon Musk wants to explore space. They are creators at heart, and Bankman just wanted to make money.
And he didn't care about the means of doing it. When he was asked if he would give up on cryptocurrencies if he had an opportunity to earn more by selling orange juice, he immediately said yes, twice. This goes against the universal success motto. We are used to the idea that we have to be completely obsessed with something and love what we are doing.
There are lots of motivational books about people being obsessed with some idea and then turning it into business. But there are no books where someone says, "Well, I just wanted to make money."
Maybe that's exactly why he got screwed over. And now we are getting to the most interesting part.
In the beginning of November, journalists of the company CoinDesk published a very curious article. It turned out that 90% of all Alameda funds consisted of FTT tokens issued by FTX.
So not fiat money or some other crypto, but their own tokens.
Alameda had no financial independence or security, and if something happened to FTX, it would get severely compromised. You would think that Alameda and FTX are completely different things.
But you gotta agree that when someone has two huge multi-billion companies and one of them has something shady going on and it's holding on by a thread, one can't but wonder.
Can we see what's going on his other company?
It turned out that Alameda Research CEO was a 28-year-old girlfriend of Bankman Fried. And let me remind you that it's a multi-billion company.
Her name is Caroline Ellison, and she's a Harry Potter fan.
This fact is now mockingly mentioned everywhere, but why wouldn't a Harry Potter fan be good at trading and company management?
But she actually was no good at it. And let's be real here, her appearance also doesn't make you trust her. It is obvious that she just got out of one of their nerd club gathering where they were watching anime. And all her experience is just a year and a half of internship as a junior trader right after college.
There are videos on Twitter where she openly admits to not actually knowing shit about all of this.
Absolutely could pull it off without my math degree. Use very little math. Use a lot of elementary school math. Being comfortable with risk is very important. We tend not to have things like stop losses. I think those aren't necessarily a great risk management tool. I'm trying to think of a good example of a trade where I've lost a ton of money. Well, I don't know. I probably don't want to go into specifics too much with that.
And just so you fully get it, here is her old tweet. Nothing like regular amphetamine intake to make you appreciate how dumb a lot of normal non-medicated human experience is. So don't be fooled by her appearance.
Her tweets and other posts can show you that she is far from being innocent sweet kid and has a weird side.
She loves BDSM, polyamory and all that.
No, I'm not saying I'm a big conservative, but saying that polyamorous relationships are the best thing ever, not the best take. So now we understand what they did in their co-working and co-living space.
The head of Binance CZ also got himself involved in this. He posted on Twitter that his exchange will be getting rid of its FTT coins amounting to 580 million.
And considering he is also a very respected person, people realized that this is it, the beginning of the end.
According to people in the crypto community, this move was unfair and CZ was acting like a gangster. But it is what it is. And Sam replied to that on his Twitter, denying everything and saying he's being screwed over, assuring people everything is fine.
These guys clearly don't like each other. Allegedly because they have different points of view, as I previously mentioned. CZ supported decentralization of cryptocurrency, and Sam Bankman, on the contrary, wanted it to be controlled by the government.
And everything was happening so fast that on November 8th, Bankman Fried almost instantly lost his multi-billion fortune, from $22 to $1 billion in just a few days, and now he has nothing at all. And those uncertainties with Bitcoin and its drop to the lowest point for the first time in 2 years also happened because of this. Bitcoin lost 20% and Ethereum lost almost 30%.
And when it became painfully clear that his exchange would not survive without outside help, Bankman started looking for funding, offering to buy out company shares. But of course, because of the latest news about his downfall, no one took him up on his offer.
He started looking for venture investors in Silicon Valley and even contacted other exchanges, for example Kraken.
He said he really up and was ready to borrow money and sell a part of his company.
And then unexpectedly CZ came to the rescue. He said Binance would buy FTX.
Lots of people at the time said, so that was it, hostile takeover, bringing disgrace at first and then buying when the price is low.
But a day later, Binance officials tweeted that things were so horrible at FTX that they were not gonna try saving it. And buying it was out of the question.
So that was the final nail in the coffin of FTX.
But the farther in, the bigger the mess.
When things started getting unraveled further, it revealed even more alarming details.
It turned out that FTX provided Alameda with emergency funding amounting to $4 billion. Alameda was not doing very well. They provided a loan of $500 million to the Voyager digital project that went bankrupt. And there were also some other things, so they really needed money.
In other words, Bankman decided to patch up Alameda using the money of his exchange clients. Even though Sam kept trying to convince everyone that the two companies functioned independently and did not use each other's money. And it was obviously illegal.
Because FTX's user agreement clearly stated that the money on its clients' accounts couldn't be used by FTX in any way and was never even accessed.
It's the same as if you left your belongings in a supermarket locker for safekeeping, and when you got back with your purchases, the owner of the store would tell you that he took it.
I liked Edward Snowden's tweet, and they call me a criminal. Even Musk is already trolling our curly boy by posting a meme. SBF is photoshopped in a Pornhub thumbnail titled "Man f***s 5 million people at once."
But that is not the scariest thing. Attention, here is a question. If Alameda goes bankrupt, what's gonna happen with the money of FTX's clients?
If Alameda goes bankrupt, FTX clients' money will also disappear.
That's why CZ posted two wise conclusions to his Twitter.
Never use a token you created as collateral, and do not borrow if you run a crypto business. And after that, having learned from the competitor, Binance launched a system to verify Bitcoin reserves to make everything as transparent as possible. And Bankman wrote that he was defeated, and that was it, his competitor won. And he also wrote, "I'm sorry, I f***ed up."
But that one was meant for everyone who used his exchange.
FTX posted an official announcement to Twitter saying that Sam resigned, and the exchange is starting bankruptcy proceedings.
And regarding the users of the exchange, no good news for them. Even if they managed to get some of their money back, it would be a small amount, and only in a couple of years, and that's not even a given. But Sam Bankman Fried is not a total fool and allowed withdrawals of funds to Bahamian citizens, because he didn't want to be in the same country with a lot of angry people.
He admitted it himself in a telephone interview with a blogger Tiffany Funk.
But that's not the most interesting thing. Lots of other details started to unravel.
SBF's pictures started getting examined and zoomed in onto spot drugs. They even found a stimulant patch that allegedly helped SBF to stay focused.
Another curious fact: if you regularly use this patch, it's advised not to eat meat, and many people saw it as an explanation of Bankman's vegetarianism. CoinDesk platforms that started this whole investigation and looked into Alameda revealed that both Bankman Fried's companies were run by just a gang of kids in the Bahamas.
Many of them were former employees of that trading company Jane Street Group, where Bankman started his employment journey, so basically his pals. And all of them were romantically involved with each other, so basically it was like a TikTok house that was dealing with crypto instead of shooting TikTok videos.
And it was absolutely normal for FTX employees to use the company's accounts for their personal needs. Employees had houses in the Bahamas signed on their names, but there were no type of documents that shows that there was some kind of loan issued by the company.
And to be precise, Sam's parents, he himself and top executives of the company bought no fewer than 19 real estate objects in the Bahamas that cost 121 million combined. And later it was revealed they actually spent 300 million.
And then lots of people started to remember Bankman's other shortcomings. People remembered that he donated only 25 million, which is just 0.1% of all his fortune.
It's not just a small amount, it made him one of the least charitable members in the Forbes list. So if you look through this list, the people who never announced their donation actually donated way more than SBF.
Who talked about it all the time and basically made it the purpose of his career.
And to make things worse, on the night of 11th to 12th November, FTX was hacked. Late in the evening, hundreds of millions of dollars started to leak from FTX wallets, and there was a message: rug pull all.
Which in crypto world means that founders of the projects are leaving and scamming all their users.
It is interesting to note that FTX's general counsel Miller kept saying that he was not aware of any transactions.
And 3 hours later, that same counsel tweeted that everything was fine and all the transactions were legit. So he basically contradicting himself.
But the result of this shady story was the loss of more than 600 million from FTX accounts. But the hacker was almost immediately found.
He used his Kraken wallet, where you have to go through verification. And there is a theory that it was one of FTX's employees, whose thought process was: things are already bad, no harm in making it worse, and decided to get a bit of money for himself.
And in a couple more days it was revealed that Bankman transferred from FTX's accounts to Alameda not just $4, but $10 billion. And one of them got lost somewhere in the process.
Well, not exactly lost. Probably he set it aside to make sure that he would be able to provide a comfortable life for himself. Or maybe saved it for his next startup. That's an effective altruism for you, huh?
People started to panic and withdrew 3.7 billion bitcoins from other exchanges and 2.5 billion Ethereum.
By the way, remember I told you to keep in mind the fact that SBF helped the Democrats and Biden. Elon Musk said that the Democrats were gonna help Sam.
He tweeted that SBF was a major Democratic donor, so there was no investigation, and that's why his scam got this far.
And they actually did start covering up for him.
Pro-democratic The New York Times published an article praising him and saying he was making efforts but unfortunately failed. Happens to everyone, right? The message was, this genius just didn't succeed this time around.
It is estimated that he donated 5.2 million from FTX and 6.2 million from Alameda to Joe Biden's campaign.
But there were rumors that the Democratic Party was laundering money that was allegedly sent to support Ukraine through FTX.
And yeah, Kiev didn't get any substantial ask from Washington. That money went to FTX, then the company was shut down and the money was taken.
Regarding that, SBF replied, I'd like to be a part of such an interesting international conspiracy, but said he didn't know anything about it. And in one of his interviews he admitted that he supported the Republicans too, just didn't make it public.
He even said that he donated about the same amount to both parties. Commendable the desire to have a cake and eat it too, but his anonymous donations do not sound very plausible.
We will see what happens next. The main question remains. Did it happen accidentally, or was it one of the biggest scams in history?
When he's asked how all of that could possibly happen, how he managed to sink both Alameda and FTX and where all the money Lebowski, he can't give a proper answer.
Clearly somebody lost the money, right? Like obviously the money went somewhere. Somebody lost it. It just seems really convenient that $8 billion was located in this like account that didn't show up when you pulled up Alameda's balances, right?
Yeah. I don't know what to tell you.
He is basically trying to convince the whole world that he just failed and blundered.
It is the same as if you came to the bank to get your deposit money and the director came out and said, look dude, I spent your money on the horse and property in the Bahamas. I don't even know how it happened and didn't realize it was your money. I'm sorry, but you won't get it back.
Some other things were revealed.
It turned out that one of the FTX's regulatory officers, Daniel Friedberg, was involved in fraud scandals.
He worked as a lawyer and did everything in his power to protect frauds. I mean, true, if you are a lawyer, you are supposed to be on your defense side, right? But Friedberg was one of those lawyers who would not just help his clients in court, but would actually help them hide the body.
Some conversations where he consulted heads of poker companies and advised them on how to avoid paying the victims were leaked. For example, on one of the biggest poker sites that right now is dead, some users had a god mode and could see their opponent's cards.
It did not just give them an advantage. It was basically like a wall hack in Counter-Strike.
Friedberg thought about a way to protect scammers by saying it was their employee who hacked the site. So he was not against blaming an innocent person.
He basically had the reputation of covering up for scammers. And the fact he worked for Bankman does not help Bankman's case.
But he didn't save him after all. The exchange fully collapsed and SBF is in big trouble.
I think Bankman became a victim of his own success. He managed to earn money very easily and started spending it without much thought just as easily. Of course, it is fun to live your life on easy mode.
Being a billionaire and playing games while giving a talk, hanging out with celebrities, being on the cover of Forbes and giving interviews where you are called the youngest billionaire in America, and being the first on the New York Times list of speakers right before Zelensky and the USA Secretary of the Treasury.
Many people slaved away for decades, sacrificed their families, their loved ones, and their free time to earn the amount of money that hundreds of times smaller than Bankman's. And he managed to do it quickly, and someone would even say effortlessly.
Maybe he had a superiority complex. And maybe he donated money not because he was a genuine altruist, but because he had that feeling of superiority, when you know you're capable of giving money to the poor.
And you are patting yourself on the back, acting all generous, but the real help is secondary for you.
And what are we supposed to think when he says he doesn't need money? I mean, look at his mansion in the Bahamas. And Caroline, who at one point renamed her blog to Fake Charity Nerd Girl.
Yeah, do you still believe in their genuine altruism?
Wrote that she liked men who controlled most major world governments.
What?
There is a theory that FTX Alameda were planning to create a global central digital bank.
And that is exactly why they sought out the government's support and donated millions of dollars to them. We'll never find out if this is actually true.
What are you, Mr. Bankman?
A philanthropist who was a philanthropist only in theory. And what if he supported the government only because he knew that people will sooner or later find out about his scam and the government would be the only one to protect him?
We can see that you cannot build your business on scamming people.
Yeah, you can get lucky and then disappear, but you won't win in the long run.
Maybe SBF believed in himself so much that he thought that nothing bad would happen and he would end up being on the top.
Yeah, he was a skeptic, but not everyone needs money. He could earn billions and walk around in old New Balance sneakers just because he was interested in other things. And that thing is power. Power and understanding that you are on the top of food chain. And that is very important for some nerds. That feeling of self-validation and understanding that you are the best one. And that feeling probably is way more important than just money.
So that is how an effective altruist who wanted to save millions of people ended up scamming millions of people.
Or maybe it's just negligence, because as it was mentioned before, it was just a gang of kids.
The company never held board meetings, they were bad at keeping track of anything, and access keys to digital assets were transferred through unprotected group mail.
A villain or just a misguided boy? This is always the question, unless we're talking about Hitler, of course, or Putin.
SBF's success could be attributed to the collective mind. Seeing big investors who supported FTX and multi-million commercials made people trust FTX and its founders without much critical thinking.
But not everyone trusted him. A well-known trader, Mark Cohodes, always called FTX a shady project, and saw SBF as a simple conman.
Cohodes even wrote to the company Bloomberg telling them they had a fraud in their midst.
But no one wanted to deal with this. Too much risk, unwillingness to lose endorsement deals, etc., etc.
And SBF, according to Cohodes, is a typical sociopath, and his words stating how sad and embarrassed he is because he let people down don't actually mean anything.
Directors already want to make a film out of this story, so it's very probable that he will pretend to be just a lost soul that didn't calculate all the risks.
But it is unlikely he will succeed. SBF is now under arrest and he will face multiple criminal charges, including fraud, conspiracy with use of electronic intermedia and money laundering.
Weirdly enough, but there are actually people who seriously believe that the guy just blundered, but actually he is a genius, and they would invest in him one more time if they just could.
One of these people is a Canadian businessman, Kevin O'Leary. Even though he lost his 15 million, he wouldn't mind participating in SBF's future projects.
You back him?
The answer would be yes.
What can I say here? Dude, it's your money. Everything will be decided in court, and we will see what happens. And probably that's it for today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and send this video to your friends who lost all their crypto assets on FTX. Also write down in the comments what do you think on this topic. And as always, see you in the next video.